The IBCCES card, which is the one you get for special accommodations for riding attractions and such in the parks, is no longer required.
Yeah, they made this change last week. So Universal system works different than Disney's. So like Jamie said, this IBCCES card is one where you had to apply for it like 48 hours before your trip. And then you had to, they used a third party, so you did have to submit some documentation. I don't know the extent. We've never had to use these passes, so we're not super, familiar with this, but just in terms of what we know about this. But yeah, so they came out and said that you can still obtain an IAC card through the service, but you can also just go to guest services at the park to receive an AA pass for Universal and Islands of Adventure on the day of.
Yeah.
So now that one, I do believe it's more short term. You would have to renew that
every time you go.
Yeah.
You have to get a new one every time you go.
So, it's one of those things where I'm thinking they probably had a lot of people that just didn't know they needed to do that. And this is, obviously there's been a lot of talk about these passes with Disney doing theirs and a lot of people being unhappy. I guess on some level, do you think this is, I can tell you how I think. Do you think this is some sort of reaction to maybe competitive versus Disney, or do you think they just saw the need for this and decided, okay, let's just simplify this and make it easier to, maybe not worry about fraud or people that don't need it getting it, and just make it easier for the people that need to get it?
Probably that. I think part of it is they listened to some of the guests out there that were just like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that, or I didn't know I had to do that before I went. And I think they were just mostly listening, like social media especially, going, okay, we need to make this available for day of, even if it's just for that day or length of stay or however they want to interpret that.
Right.
That's okay. The good thing about the IBCCES, they call it the IAC card, is that you can use it at other parks. It's not just good for Universal. You can use it at SeaWorld. You can use it at Six Flags. You can use it at places that use the same service. So there is an advantage to going that route and setting all that up and beforehand, and it's good for a year. So, you can use a lot of traveling you can do in a year.
Yeah.
So there are some perks to it, but I definitely see the fact that like getting it the day of and just enjoying your day and not having to worry about it is something to be said for that. And I think if Disney was smart, they would do some changes or undo some changes they've made in the last couple months.
Yeah, I think now one thing I will say about Universal, they do for a again, they're a large company. They're owned by Comcast. They're not, some mom and pop shop, running things. They do a really good job of listening to guest feedback. And that's one thing I will say. I've been going to Universal as much as we have in the past, especially the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. They seem to really take note of what the guest wants and really try and deliver on that. So on that end, and again, I'm assuming they got a lot of feedback and they said, okay, we need to make this change. So I do applaud them for that. Now, I do think on some level it is a competitive thing with Disney. I'm not saying they did it for this reason, but a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, are really unhappy with Disney and their DAS system.
Yeah.
And I think, and just even from stuff I've seen on social media and comments on the YouTube videos, a lot of people have said, yeah, I'll go to Universal because I'm not. First off, it's like the whole thing with Disney is you have to buy the tickets and then you got to go through this process where a lot of people, even people, they've even said the system was designed for autism. A lot of those people are being denied. There was a story of an 8-year-old boy that had really bad autism that they denied a DAS pass for, and they basically they had to leave early and stuff like that. So I think on some level it ends up being a competitive advantage. I don't think that's the reason they did it, but I do like the idea that they're saying, okay, sure, there's going to be some fraud probably that comes along with this, but at the end of the day, you're trying to provide a service for people that do need it for a disability thing. So I think it's a good thing. Now, I have no clue. We're obviously talking about Universal here. No clue what Disney will do. If they do something, it'll be probably a year from now because they just do things much slower. But I do think that this is, from what I've heard and how it seems, that this is a much more guest-friendly way to do it. I guess I put it that way.
Yeah.